This is Together, an Ada Bible Church podcast about the world of marriage, where we attempt to invite you to explore the ways marriage works and doesn't work. From practical ways of learning to biblical inspiration, we invite you to listen to other professionals and couples to help enrich your marriage.
Hey, listeners. Andy and I are here today, and we get to interview a really cool couple. But Andy, before we jump in, you are a marriage counselor.
I am.
And question for you, what do you love about marriage counseling?
Oh, boy. I love a lot about marriage counseling. I would say one of the biggest ones is just getting to see a couple who is struggling, a couple who is having a hard time relating to one another, or even sometimes understanding one another, and being able to step into that and bring a new level of clarity so that they can hear a different perspective, see each other from a different point of view, and oftentimes just understand each other on much deeper levels.
That is a perfect segue to, so listeners, today what we're going to do first is we are going to interview a couple I got to counsel. And how you described that, Andy, is perfect to Eric and Lisa Miller.
Wonderful.
So Eric, Lisa, welcome to Together.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah. So I'm just meeting you guys. Great to have you on the podcast. I'd love to hear more of your guys' story. Can you guys kind of tell me some of how'd you guys meet? Tell me a little about yourselves.
Oh, yes. For my job, I'm the pastry chef at the JW Marriott downtown.
Okay.
And Eric joined as the in-room dining supervisor. Mm-hmm. So we had met at that point. And a little bit about me is I had been married before. So I was not looking to date or be in a relationship at all. But when Eric started working there, the girls who worked with me said, "Oh, you should date him." I was like, no. But the more that I talked to him, I really liked him, and he's funny, and so we kept talking. And then, but I also wasn't going to date Eric because typically people who work in kitchens, like it's a very not Jesus culture. So I assumed that Eric did not have a relationship with God. So I was like, no, I'm not going to.
Sure.
And so Eric also had
I guess to say it is, I'm kind of the opposite of Lisa, where she was saying like, hey, I'm not looking for anybody to marry. I was looking for somebody to marry, just not in a kitchen because and I know a lot of listeners probably work in kitchens. I don't want to be derogatory, but just the vast majority of people in the kitchen are usually rougher, not looking for Jesus, a lot of daddy issues, but like that kind of a circumstance. And so I just had sworn off it. I think I'd even told God, hey, like that chef over there, Lisa, she looks very attractive, but I'm not going to kind of look into that relationship. And then I regretted that later. And then I tried to look into that relationship where I tried to set it up for myself. So in the chef world, there's this guy named Chef Escoffier from back in the day. And in the chef world, it's like a big to-do. If you're a Cubs fan, it's the Lou Piniella of French culinary.
Great analogy.
If you're like a Lions fan, I don't know if you've ever had a good coach in the Lions, but that was the idea. So I set up this big day at my house for chefs, basically to be like, hey, we're going to have an Escoffier cook night. So everybody is responsible for like an appetizer, hors d'oeuvre, the main entree. And I asked Chef Lisa, hey, you want to do the dessert for Escoffier night, just to kind of get her to my house. And it fell through literally 2 nights before. And like everybody else was planning on it. Chef Lisa's like, hey, I got to bail. The GVSU graduation's happening. And I was bummed. I literally canceled it on everybody else.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. You are a bad person.
I am absolutely a bad person. But it was very interesting because the story of how we met is connected to that. And I think it's because overall God had this idea that I'm going to bring you two together. But Eric, I need you to know that it was me, not you. Because that was going to set the tone for the rest of our marriage. What I was doing is I was like, okay, that's over. That's it. God, I told you I wouldn't try to connect with Lisa. I tried, mea culpa. And then just a couple days later, I was walking through the kitchen, and the male chefs were kind of gathered around talking about things male chefs like to talk about. And one of the younger cooks that was new was like, "Hey, what do you think about that chef Lisa? You think I got a shot?" And the chef de cuisine at the time was like, "No, you don't want to try for Chef Lisa." And I stopped. I was like, "Well, why not? Like, what's wrong?
That's funny.
Does she have a murder rap or something?" Like, and but then he goes like in this big burly voice, "She loves Jesus."
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, it was over. I asked her out the next day, like the next morning.
Wow. Wow.
And where did it go from there?
From there, we dated. I wasn't going to say yes because, as I had mentioned, I was in a marriage before. But I just enjoyed being around him, and I just felt comfortable saying, like, yeah, why not? And the longer we hung out, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 months, and I was like, I really like this guy. And then it freaked me out because I'm like, I'm not getting married again. What am I supposed to do now? So I called my best friend, and I was like, I don't know what to do. She's like, you can do this. I was like, okay. So I talked a lot to God, and and that was, Eric started seeking counseling at that point, and then I got kind of pulled into that as well. So I was able to talk through a lot of the things that I had been hesitant about getting married again.
And then what was, Eric, for you, what was so you dated for a while. What was the moment of like, okay, we're gonna do this?
Oh yeah, that was I think month 4.5 is when we said I love you.
Sure.
And then for me, I'd been a chronic dater. So like fear of commitment, never let anybody too close. And so I think the moment I said those words, something inside me broke. And then that was the very interesting time period of like, okay, wow, things are getting serious. Like this is a little out there. But
So what was that journey from like things broke, things are getting serious to kind of being ready to ask the question?
well, that is the how did you get together question with the other person at the table, Kelly Bonniwell. So when I said broke, with those issues that I had faced with commitment, something I've never felt before was jealousy. Had no idea really, like I've seen the movies and things like that, Streetcar Named Desire. But then as soon as I said that, I started having these wild, vivid fantasies of Lisa like cheating on me. Like I'd be driving to her house, absolutely sure I was going to see another guy jumping out the window or, things like this. And if you know Lisa, you realize kind of how absurd that sounds.
Very much so.
Yeah. And it was like, I immediately knew, I was like, this is not grounded in something that's real. This feels very like kind of oppressive and odd. So I had talked to another friend of mine who was a pastor at Ada Bible at the time. And he was like, hey, I've got this guy for you to talk to. He's a director of care here. And he helps people that don't know where to go. He's not going to take you on. He'll do that sometimes with the really bad cases. But what he'll do is he'll hear your story and he'll say like, hey, maybe you should connect with this mentor or connect with this counselor. Or if you do need therapy, like, hey, maybe a therapist is the right idea. And so I meet with Kelly and we talk. And at the end of it, he goes, Eric, I think we should talk again. And I was like, no.
I'm crazy.
I was like, I'm like the bad one. But no, it was really great. There was, and this is kind of one of the reasons I am such a big proponent for counseling, is that a lot of times the things that we're experiencing in real time, we think we know what's causing that. And a lot of times we don't. And so we'll try to address it ourselves and it won't work and we'll get frustrated. But one of the things that Kelly drew me to was at that time in my life, even though I was a Christian seeking God, I had fallen short on my relationship with Jesus. And once we started working that out together, the jealousy disappeared. Mm-hmm. It was a non-issue. It was really just me slowing down, taking time to hear God. And then we got to talk about later some issues I had from childhood. And that sort of really propelled me forward in being able to say like, okay, I think I could settle down, get married, start a family.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So just rooting yourself in Christ was the key.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, the thing I don't know is what got you to the wedding. I don't know that part of your story.
It was, I guess, sort of to echo you, Eric. I did a lot of talking to God, and talking to Kelly, who I also, because I would pray before we even go to talk to you. And the difference it makes, I'm sure there's a lot of extremely intelligent and talented counselors out there who don't follow Christ. But to speak to somebody who is a Christ follower and that's how they make their decisions and that's how they view the world, made a big difference to me. So in speaking with Eric and Kelly, with the three of us together, because I had been in counseling before myself, having gone through a previous marriage. It was amazing. He also knew God, loved God, and that was extremely helpful to just to kind of know where I stood, like what's real. Because in various situations, you kind of think, well, am I the crazy one in this situation? Like, what's the rock here? Mm-hmm. So to be pointed back to what's actually true and what's scriptural, and Eric. Very much seeks God in everything. So God showed to me just over and over again, he would kind of like bump me and go, look, and see something that Eric did, the way that he was very honest with me, the way he genuinely would care for me, and just the way that the fact that he does put God first, I know that his heart is in the right place and he's not going to give up on us. It's not going to be what I had experienced before. God just really showed me through Eric, this is what I meant marriage to be. This is what a partner is. This is what I want you two to do in working together.
How many years have you guys been married right now?
Almost 8.
Yeah.
8 years. Mm-hmm. Okay. So counseling for us, so phase 1, Eric, it was you and me. Mm-hmm. And we were dealing with, and we'll get to it a little bit more, the brokenness issues. And then you introduced me to Lisa, and everybody loves Lisa. Mm-hmm. And I remember we'd meet at Click Coffee and do some premarital stuff. Mm-hmm. For Lisa, for you, it was commitment issues, which we'll talk about that as well. But then the third phase, which I don't know if we'll get to this part, but the third phase is during COVID, there was a long stretch where we would talk, but it wasn't counseling, so to speak. But during COVID, I mean, everybody was going through it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Truth.
I remember you guys reaching out and just saying, hey, can we have phone conversations? We're struggling. And that struggle, which again, we'll get to this, is about finances. Mm-hmm. That was a key struggle that we were talking about during COVID. And we did that exclusively on the phone. So just listeners out there, that is a different modality of how you can do counseling. It doesn't always have to be face-to-face. So Lisa, starting with you, can you just share with our listeners, what was your barrier in terms of the commitment stuff?
So I got married, I was 21 and I got married, and good guy, my family all loved him. He didn't have a relationship with God, but at that point in my life, I thought that's okay because he's interested in going to church with me and it'll kind of work itself out. And actually now that I look back on my own relationship with God, it was not that strong at that time. I grew up in a Christian family. I went to church and no part of me thought I don't love God. But I think just looking back, I did not know God well enough. I didn't put enough emphasis on, God, what do you want me to do? What do you have to say about this? But all that being said, my family all liked this guy. He was, like I said, a good guy. But then after we were married, and he came from a hard background, his family. He had lived a lot of different struggles. But his father committed suicide. We were married for a year, and his dad took his life, and that seemed to be kind of a breaking point for him. And I noticed him drinking more, and he'd always drank. Like, we went to college together, and I just didn't think anything of it at that time. But then I noticed it just getting more and more by himself, a lot of escapism. And I was finally like, I don't think this is okay. And then talking to him, it's just like, it's fine. But it just got worse. Things really got bad. And so I think we were married for 6 years. And I was like, I need to talk to somebody about this. And it was actually really hard for me to pull that trigger. And I had no problems with like counseling. I didn't have any kind of like stigma in my head. But for me, I think I just thought I can figure this out, or I need to figure this out. But then after that amount of time passed, I was like, I cannot figure this out. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. So I started going to a different guy, and he was wonderful, and talked me through it. And I was in counseling for about 2 years with him, because my husband at the time was, he went a couple times to like a rehab center, but he just didn't want it enough, because we ended up separating, because I learned a lot about healthy boundaries, and we separated, and I did not want to get a divorce. You see divorce all around you. And I thought, I'm not going to be one of those. I made my decision. And so I have to figure this out. I told God I was going to do this. But he didn't want to get well enough to actually get well. So finally, at one point, God, like I said, after about 2 years of me being in counseling, God said, you don't have to do this anymore. And the relief I felt, because I was still scared to tell people, and because I was going to a different church at the time, I didn't want anybody to know. I thought they are just going to be disappointed, and this is not what you're supposed to do. But God sent me a really cool mentor at my church. She just one day was like, are you okay? And I just started crying, and I told her everything, and she was wonderful. So helpful. So I was like, well, I'm not doing that again, because when I was married, I thought marriage is terrible. Why do people do this? I don't understand.
Funny,
right? Yeah.
I know.
Marriage is terrible. That's a new tagline for Together.
That'll be your takeaway from today.
Could that be the title for the podcast today?
But then after getting out of that relationship and just getting in a healthier mindset, I was like, oh, marriage isn't my marriage was terrible. Marriage is not terrible. But I also thought that was my shot, and I messed it up.
Sure.
So I just, and he changed so much from when we got married. I was like, that's another reason I'm not doing this again, because I'm going to marry somebody else, and then what? Like the same thing's going to happen. Like I don't think I'm going to do this again. So I just kind of made peace, to some degree, with the fact that I was just going to be alone for the rest of my life. And I was trying to wrap my head around what that would be like. But I thought, well, this is the way it is. And my relationship with God grew exponentially during that time. Not that I want to like do that again, but I also, I guess, silver lining that, but I don't regret how much closer I got to God in that, and how much he showed himself and who he is.
Yeah, I can absolutely come alongside. So no interest in remarriage, and then enter Eric.
Yes.
And Eric has commitment issues as well.
Yeah, I want to hear some from your side too. Tell us some about that background for you.
Yeah, so I came from a very I think common thing in the 1980s and the 1990s. Just the tumultuous, violent marriages that refuse to get a divorce because it's a sin. So there's like just constant sort of like aggression, constant fighting, but there's really no quest to seek out the tools to make that fighting stop. Like where you're like, well, we're married, so we're stuck together, miserable, but we love each other. And so therefore this is holy, right? And so I came out very like, I heard Lisa saying it, and I was like, yes, this is it. I hated marriage, the idea of marriage. I thought, like, I didn't understand what was the purpose, what was the point. Like, I understood, like, theoretically, obviously, if you're going to procreate, you need to have marriage. But, like, as far as, like, you know, the happiness that could come into marriage, I just figured, like, yeah, no, it didn't exist.
No matter what Hallmark says.
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
Liars.
don't get me started on that, though. Because one of my favorite movies is actually Netflix, like The Christmas Prince. So I do love me some Hallmarky cheese. Oh, yeah. But yeah, so that was my thing. But very similar too, I think. And this is one thing I'd say, because I feel like today, with like red pill culture, you know, black pill culture, there's that vein of like marriage is tyranny, marriage is oppression. That's very permeated in our culture, and I think it's causing a lot of us to not want to get married, not want to have children, because people keep telling you it's horrible. and you see anecdotal evidence, right? But I think that's the thing that counseling really brought into my world was like, on the one side, God had brought me somebody from my church too, Craig and Christina, if you're listening, hi. And I actually got to go live with them for about 6 months, and I got to just observe their marriage, like as I crashed in their basement for half a year. And it was just the way they talked with their children, the way they talked to each other, like it was just different. And then I think that was God planting a seed of like, hey, marriage is not what you grew up with. That's not my goal. And so by the time I got to Lisa, I was like, oh, hey, okay, I like this lady, but at the same time too, like still very afraid of marriage. And then Kelly basically dragged that out of me through some very good questions, some very good conversation points. And I think that's really it. It's like we have this idea of like, let's get married as the next step in life. But then it's like driving a car because it's the next step, but you never had driver's ed. You don't have any tools. You don't know the lay of the land. And I think that's what kind of got me ready was Kelly introduced the tools to have a successful marriage. And I know I've listened to a lot of your podcast, but like when it comes to like some linings of like scheduling a night that's just about talking, like heavy issues, which Kelly will call agape nights, because it's not just about like flirtatious love or romance, or it's also not just going out on a date. It's very scheduled, like, hey, here's the things that I think are going down the wrong road in our marriage, and they're going to cause hurt feelings. But you're building up this like tolerance to hearing somebody say something about you that you need to hear. That's not great. And then working with the tools of like active listening. I know you guys throw around John and Julie Gottman a lot. There's a lot of great tools there, but like the idea of like, okay, am I hearing my spouse correctly? Because my emotions are trying to tell me she's saying something that she's not trying to say. And so once I kind of had some of those tools together, then that's when I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to jump off. Like I didn't feel ready, but I was like, God, I'll trust you and I'll go into this next step. I'm ready to take the trust.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
So you made the jump.
Yeah.
You got married and happily ever after, right?
Yeah, it was easy.
Never fought again.
We never had a problem.
Never fought again. Didn't have to call Kelly. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, you did have to call
hang
Kelly.
on.
Oh,
Yeah,
wait, is
we
that?
did.
Yeah.
What was that phone counseling?
And but that I think is a good segue to take us to when we talked over COVID. And this is the part I really, really like about your story and why I wanted you guys on the podcast. So on the one hand, you guys figured out the commitment issues, right?
Yeah.
And one of the other cool parts of that story that you reminded me of and shared is the super importance of other people influencing you to regain hope, especially for you, Lisa, regaining hope that marriage could be a good thing, maybe.
Yeah.
But the second part that we're going to talk about is you've struggled with finances, and most couples do, right? And again, and this is going to get drawn out in our conversation, but this is a big reason why I wanted you guys on, is that you haven't figured this out totally.
Correct.
Right?
Lisa
And-
tells me that at least.
And that's real life, right? So Lisa, why don't you jump in and let's talk a little bit about that topic.
In every marriage, there's like a spender and a saver. I'm sure to different degrees, but in our marriage, I'm the saver and Eric is the spender. And when we were dating, it was very fun for me because it was his money and my money. And he is very generous. Like he loves taking care of people, making people feel special. That is definitely like a gift that God gave him. So when we were dating, he would give me like, when I was like very busy at work or whatever it was, he would, get something to kind of like cheer me up or let me know he's thinking about me. It was very sweet. And then when we got married and we put our money together, I was like, wait, how much did that cost?
That gift that God gave him all of a sudden
was taking my money.
Right.
Yeah. So then we had a lot of hard conversations. Eric, and I'm sure part of it is the way that we both grew up differently. We viewed money differently. And I grew up in a good Hollander family where you save every single dime you get. So that's very ingrained in me. And Eric chooses to use and enjoy his money, which again, I don't think either one is inherently bad, but you have to have controls, I think, on both ends. And so that's the interesting thing God is doing with us, is trying to iron that out of each of us to find more of a middle ground. But yeah, it caused a lot of stress between the two of us because I didn't understand why he didn't think the way I did, and vice versa. I have let's speak for you. But so trying to figure out, because it's not just a problem that like went away. We weren't like, oh, okay, I'll do your thing then. It's still like we've gotten a lot better. We've grown quite a bit. We did the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace. We did that a few years ago, and I think you did not want to go at first.
Yeah, that's accurate. So I think that's the funny part too. Is like there's when it comes to like the husband and wife sort of paradigm. It's a very interesting thing. Is like when it seems like one person is the sinner and the other person is naturally the good person, there is kind of like this odd equilibrium unbalance there where it feels like all the pressure is on the sinner, which is that's me in the relationship.
That's you.
That's
okay.
Me. So like
the spenders are the sinners.
Yeah, write that down.
I'm the sinner with Julie and I.
Takeaway number 2.
But it's great. So Lisa would come into like our conversations with like, hey, I wish we were more responsible with our money. And I'd be like, oh yeah, I wish I wasn't like, like a child with spending. Like, I wish I was a mature adult. And then, that kind of like, I would say put like a bitterness between us that I was not aware of. And so right about the time we were doing the getting ready for the Dave Ramsey program, that was something that we were having conversations about with. It's like, okay, I don't want to do this Dave Ramsey thing because the Dave Ramsey thing is reminding me that I am the child in this relationship. And I wasn't comfortable with that, right? So I hadn't really thought it out that well. But then that's where you've got the tools. So you sit down, you talk it out. You're like, okay, so when you say, let's go to Dave Ramsey, are you saying, hey, quit being a child, grow up and get on my level? And Lisa was very good about, no, that's not it. Like, I get what you're struggling with. And the program is what's going to help us get together on this, help us be on the same boat. So once again, I got to that point of like, okay, I'm going to have to trust and then drive on out.
You brought something up when we talked about this that I thought was helpful, and I want you both to share it from your own perspective, and that is we talked about what is money to us. And I think that was a very big dynamic with you, and you both have very different views about what money is to us. So Lisa, in terms of those conversations, you guys had to figure that out. So what was money to you?
To me, it was kind of to show what I had worked so hard for. A hard worker is also something that has been ingrained in me. So to kind of have that in my savings was like, good. I'm doing good. I'm doing a good job. And then to have it just not there, either when I need it or just when I want it, because I just always had a full savings account. So if something happened, I was just like, no problem. So it's also security to me to see that there. So that's something that when it does come up, because I think it's come up in like sermons at church, just about how much you're putting your trust, either in various things, but like, for example, in your savings account versus trusting in God, figuring out where am I being responsible and where am I putting too much of my, like, I need to be safe by seeing this right here.
Okay, the sinner. What is money to you?
So yeah, for me, it was two things. I think like on one side of it, money was being able to, I think on one side, like take away stress. Obviously there's like the stress relief of just going out and buying, getting that dopamine hit, collecting, providing a fun little like surprise for Lisa or something. And then on the other side too, it was really funny. You say about your childhood, because like just kind of realizing for me, I realized a lot of it was my ability to buy what I wanted to when I wanted to was filling this desire to tell me like, Eric, you're not poor anymore, because I grew up really poor. And then so that was my coping mechanism to be like, okay, well, if I can buy what I want to buy when I want to buy, that means I've made it. So it was very interesting.
So it's like then Lisa comes in and says, hey, you can't buy what you want to buy when you want to buy it anymore. You're making me poor again.
Yep, exactly. That was a lot of, and because that's not anything that's in my brain as an understanding. So I had no idea, like, when we be talking about it, I'm like, I'm not understanding what you're saying. And so Eric was able to, I guess, just explain it to me at some point. Like, this is how I feel. And I was like, oh, like, okay, I can understand a little bit more about why you do what you do and how you think. Because that's, I think, the most frustrating part is when you can't understand each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I love about the topic of finances is, like you guys are describing, like, neither view is necessarily wrong or maybe even right sometimes. There's value to all of it, but it's something where you have all that tension in the marriage because of it.
Yeah.
Just different views. And you go, there isn't a sinner and a saint here. It's just very different ways of going about it. So really recognizing, like we talked about right up front, that the way of seeing things from a different perspective is super helpful in understanding this is what I'm doing when I say this to you.
Yeah. And I think having that third party too, because even in that, it makes you think, am I wrong? Am I being too hard on him? Am I not just being responsible? Am I passing it? Or to get in your own head of, well, I know I'm right. I just need to get this guy to get on board with me. To have that third party give you some of that clarification is very helpful.
Yeah.
Well, and again, I think one of the things that we're kind of joking about, the spender is the sinner, but the spender brings beauty into your life. And Lisa, I'm sure you have a lot of stories. I want to say this. Eric is one of the biggest gift givers that I've ever met. And I have gotten 2 gifts in particular from you and Eric, a beautiful copy of Screw Tape Letters. Do you remember that?
Yep.
Okay. And then the other one was for Julie and I's anniversary. This one was a very special but funny gift. And it won't make a lot of sense to most of the listeners probably, but Eric made me a gift utilizing Photoshop. And if you are a big fan of Sufjan Stevens, again, most people are just, who's that?
They're Googling it right now.
But Eric and Lisa gave Julie and I such a cool gift. In fact, maybe what we'll do is we'll have it a part of our social media because it's a very funny picture of Julie and I too. But so the spender does bring joy and goodness. Like you guys took a trip to France and ate at wonderful restaurants. And I'm sure you guys have amazing memories from that time as well as other things. But Lisa, you're right too. You got to have a budget. You got to know what you're spending and how much you're spending and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So it's been awesome hearing some of your guys' story and kind of where you came from, even back from when you guys were working in the kitchen going, I am never going to date that person, both of you at the same time, to then ending up married and struggling through finances together. I love this part where we get to put you guys on the spot and ask you this question about what do you guys love about each other? So Eric, Lisa, bless each other. What do you guys love about one another?
Only one thing. You want to go first? Me?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay. So this is the thing with Lisa. I think my number one thing, and it's part of the Kelly was talking about earlier, like what drew you guys together. For me with Lisa, it's a combination of Lisa is not afraid to do the hard thing. And that's in so many aspects of life. But like the one that I'm most attracted to on a regular basis is her putting of God first in her life and like really, really chasing that down. I have watched her, struggle through all sorts of things. The most recent was infertility, where for the listeners that don't know, we have one very beautiful daughter named Isabella. She's 5, precocious, and right now she's probably having a great time. But we think she's a miracle baby. We think God gave us a blessing of a miracle with that baby because Lisa and I have not been able to have another child. And that's one of the things is like watching you go through what you emotionally had was your required number of children for that perfect family that's in your emotional core. And I watched you give every ounce of that to God to say like, hey, I am your daughter. I will give up any of my desires for your will for me. Like that's tops.
I should have gone first because now I'm crying.
I told you to.
Thank you, babe. That's very sweet. I wrote mine down because I didn't want to forget anything. But Eric, you're just an amazing human. Your mind is a force to be reckoned with. You think so deeply and so intelligently. You challenge me to see things from different angles and different points of view. You're introspective and you're self-aware, and you're always willing to acknowledge your own faults and work at making it right. You seek the truth and you seek out God in every situation, and you lead me and our family to think and live as followers of Christ, and I'm so grateful for that. I love your sense of humor. I love how you get me and everyone else laughing and having fun. You are so thoughtful and generous, and you take care of people. You think of me often, and you show me how you care in so many ways, and you're a wonderful father. I love watching you with our daughter. You're very patient, and you're so much fun, and I love seeing how excited she gets to see you and spend time with you. And you're a tremendous partner. You work with me through the day-to-day, as well as the hard yuck that we've had to walk through. And you're strong. You're very handsome. And I can't imagine God giving me a better partner than you. That's the truth.
Thanks, babe.
That was so beautiful. And that is kind of just full circle about, God's redemption and in both of your lives and bringing you together. And it's been an absolute joy to get to know you guys. And again, I think today's podcast, that's why I wanted you guys on. I think the two big things that I pull from it is for those who are out there, because whenever we make these episodes, we're trying to think of somebody, a couple out there, a person out there who's struggling. So maybe there's somebody out there like you, Lisa, that either you had a bad breakup or you ended up getting divorced and you think, well, that's it. God's not going to give me another chance. And that your story is so beautiful, and that is, he definitely gives you another chance. And then the other cool thing too, but this is the reality of marriage, is that not everything is figured out. And that's why we get a lifetime to figure it out. So thank you so much for being on the episode today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So, hey, friends, thanks so much for being and listening to us today. We pray you've been impacted by today's topic and that you walk away with something practical for your relationship. If you haven't already, subscribe to our podcast. That's really huge in terms of getting it out there. And if you do have any needs, please email us at care@adabible.org. We'd love to hear from you and just any thoughts that you might have. For Together, this has been Kelly and Andy.
Thanks for listening to Together. We hope you've learned a thing or two. If you find the podcast helpful, please go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your listening platform, leave a comment, and give us a 5-star rating. If you'd like more information on Ada Bible Church and its ministries, or someone to pray or dialogue with about your marriage, go online and check out our website at adabible.org.